Me, she parked her 70,000 BMW inside my welding shop and left a note: "Your workshop is now a property." So I welded the building shut, labeled it a community art piece, and took a 6-week inspiration trip. Me, she wanted obedience. I gave her a masterclass in poetic property rights. Let's just say karma has a welding torch. Comment if you've ever wanted to teach a Karen a lesson. My name's Calvin Briggs. Me, and I own 10 acres of Leave Me Alone, about a mile outside of Maple Hollow. I bought it for peace, steel, and the sweet sound of nobody asking me to paint my fence, hog-shell compliant. Out here, if you hear a siren, it's probably just a rooster that stepped on something sharp. I built my workshop down the slope, away from the house, me, because every artist needs distance from normalcy, especially when that artist plays with fire and plasma for a living. It's where I weld, fix tractors, me, and occasionally turn scrap into sculptures that make pretentious gallery folks nod solemnly like they just found God in a muffler. Me, so when I rolled up after a long day shaping 800 pounds of county, commissioned steel gates, and found a pristine BMW parked inside my shop, I didn't feel rage. I felt something colder, like the calm before a hailstorm. The car wasn't parked near the door or on the gravel or in some understandable, oops, kind of way. It was centered, positioned, me, and proud, as if it had claimed squatters' rights on sacred ground. I walked around it like it might explain itself. But instead of answers, it gave me a note. Me, zip, tied to the door handle like a passive-aggressive hostage message from a suburban dictator. The second note was taped to my workshop door. Same handwriting, corporate neat. Me, same tone, middle management delusion. I am utilizing your workshop space as temporary parking for HOA inspection guests. Me, please remove all equipment and clean the space to meet neighborhood standards. Signed by Margaret Denton, Showa President, Maple Hollow Expansion Zone. Expansion Zone. Mom, I live outside your ZIP code. Me, I'm barely in the county. But she didn't stop at imaginary borders. She forged fake county documents claiming agricultural oversight authority. That's right. She cooked up zoning fiction so elaborate. Even the paper looked confused. The phone call came next, unknown number. Her voice, all business, no soul. "Mr. Briggs, I assume you found my note," I replied, "along with your car trespassing on my property." There was a pause long enough for her to imagine me as a peasant resisting the queen. Then she doubled down. "Actually, this property now falls under temporary jurisdiction for compatibility evaluation. I expect compliance by 8 a.m. That's when I stopped hearing her. Me, not because I was ignoring her, but because inspiration had arrived. Divine industrial inspiration. My workshop wasn't compromised. It had just become the centerpiece of a project bigger than both of us. Me, that night, I called my friend Hector, a former Navy welder with a moral allergy to bureaucracy. "Bring the plasma cutter," I said. "And the good generator." He didn't ask questions. He just said, "Me, what they do now." We worked until sunrise, not out of rage, but out of clarity. Every vent, door, and window sealed with steel plate like we were locking away state secrets. We weren't just closing a building. We were crafting a legend. A steel-walled statement with one engraved message on the front. Community art in progress. Do not disturb me. Vehicle inside donated for cultural transformation. When someone hands you forged authority and a luxury car, don't get mad, get metal. She thought she could seize my shop with a letterhead and a smirk. Wait till she finds out her BMW's now part of a permanent public sculpture. Stick around, because this transformation hasn't even begun to hum yet. If I had $1 for every HOA threat I've ignored, I could have bought Sheila's car myself, used. Maybe even 2 if I skipped the leather seats. That was the joke I cracked when I called up my old friend Tyrese Hill, retired Marine, part-time scrap artist, full-time chaos enabler. I didn't even finish explaining before he said, "What time you want me there?" See, Tyrese doesn't believe in HOA authority. He believes in plasma cutters, moral clarity, me, and welding gloves that smell like liberty. And when I told him about the BMW squatters' invasion, he just muttered, "Guess we're making history, huh?" By 8 p.m. We were standing shoulder to shoulder in front of that smug German hood ornament like it had insulted our mothers. Tyrese squinted at it and said, Sheila's gonna lose her pearls when she realizes she gifted us a blank canvas." We sketched it out on a whiteboard I'd stolen from the local Ag Center auction. A community installation disguised as an airtight revenge project. Art, sure, but also a reinforced reminder that not all property is up for neighborhood discussion. I titled the plan Operation No Tochi. Tyrese titled it BMWQ, bureaucratic manipulation weaponized quietly. Either way, the blowtorch didn't care. We started welding that night. Doors, windows, crawl vents, every opening sealed like it owed us rent. The steel plates went up with the kind of precision that makes ex-wives jealous. We didn't just trap a luxury SUV, we entombed it in symbolism. I installed a motion sensor spotlight that flared like judgment whenever someone approached. And Tyrese, in a stroke of genius, placed a QR code sign that linked to a fake museum exhibit titled Urban Infiltration and Rural Resistance, a Study in Misplaced Authority. I laughed so hard, I nearly torched my own boot. The turning point came at 2:47 a.m. when I stepped back, stared at the steel-clad barn, and realized this wasn't protest anymore. It was production. I wasn't just defending my property, I was building a message with a welder's signature and the kind of sarcasm you can only bake into half-inch steel. The cherry on top, a single sign, polished and bolted to the front door, Temporary community installation, sponsored by uninvited guests. No Tochi. Tyrese stood beside me, nodding solemnly like we'd just baptized the building, We shut off the generator and cracked 2 cold ones under a sky full of stars and potential lawsuits. I leaned back and smiled. You think she's gonna get it? Tyrese laughed. Nope, But the internet will. We were already planning the next step, making sure Sheila Denton's HOA empire collapsed under the weight of her own entitlement. One weld, one post, one viral comment at a time. The difference between vandalism and art is a welder's signature and a good alibi. She taped a memo on my door like it came from the Pentagon, I'm welding one onto her legacy, stainless steel, baby. You won't believe what she tries next. Sheila told the town she'd clean up the neighborhood. She started with my soul. Apparently. That's what the HOA flyer said, some pastel-colored monstrosity about raising standards. I figured the only thing Sheila could raise was her blood pressure, And even that depended on how far the brunch buffet line was. So, while she drafted her fake ordinances in Flash, mobbed her followers into thinking I was public enemy number 1, I vanished. 6 weeks. Me drone in the sky, solar panels on my camper, full satellite uplink like I was scouting for aliens. Truth is, I just wanted to fish in peace while Sheila marinated in her own bad decisions, She showed up on cue, Eid Hoser AM sharp, like she was clocking in for a job the universe never offered her. Clipboard in hand, heels like daggers. And that infamous power, walk that screams. I once reported a Girl Scout for unlicensed lemonade. The cameras caught it all, Sheila squinting at my sign like it had personally insulted her, then squawking.
This is an illegal structure. I demand access immediately.
Her inspection team trailed behind her in business, casual defeat, clearly promised pastries and oh glory. Instead, they found a fortress built by 2 guys with welding torches and a zero-tolerance policy for unsolicited authority. They tried the door, then the side panel, then the back gate. Nothing moved, The hinges were welded like gospel truth. Sheila tapped her pen against her clipboard like it might conjure a key, muttering legalese like, "This violation will be escalated to Community Compliance Level 3. One of her assistants whispered, "Mom, I think we need tools," to which she hissed back, "We don't need tools. We have jurisdiction. Yeah, and I have a welder's certification and a personality disorder triggered by unsolicited clipboard energy." That's when Sheriff Roy Wilcox rolled up, slow, calm, like a man who's dealt with Sheila before and once ticketed her for trying to direct traffic with a laser pointer. He stepped out, adjusted his hat, read my sign like it was the morning paper, and smirked, "Looks artistic to me," he said. Sheila exploded into a monologue about public safety, neighborhood cohesion, and something she called emergency HOA sovereignty. Roy blinked, twice. Then he said, "Malam, this is private property. You parked your car inside without permission. Now it's part of an art exhibit. Maybe sit this one out." That moment broke something in her. She shrieked, "This is an attack on order." While Roy calmly jotted notes in his pad, I watched it all from 100 miles away with a trout on the line and popcorn in my lap. The power shift was complete, Her voice had become noise. My silence had become sculpture. Sheila didn't just lose access to my workshop. She lost the illusion that she could control everything around her with tone, title, me, and a Xeroxed bylaws packet. When in doubt, weld it shut and label it art. She came looking for leverage and found a legal booby trap in steel-toed boots. Wait till she finds out what's inside the structure. You'll want to see what's about to hatch from this community cocoon. She called the sheriff to arrest me. The sheriff called her paperwork adorable. That's not a joke. That's a direct quote from Roy, right before he held Sheila's forged zoning ordinance like it was a toddler's crayon drawing of the Constitution. She stood there fuming in her power blazer, holding a laminated fake law like it came with a free coupon for immediate respect. Roy didn't even flinch. He just tilted his head and said, "Well, I've seen more convincing forms on cereal boxes." Sheila's legal documents had all the credibility of a pirate treasure map written in Comic Sans. The seals were crooked. The codes didn't match any county system, and one of the supposed ordinance numbers actually belonged to a hunting license form from 1987. Roy flipped through the pages like he was grading a failed term paper. Mom, you're claiming this man's property is under HOA jurisdiction based on what exactly? A map drawn in highlighter. Her jaw locked like a rusty lawn chair, and she hissed, "These forms were verified by my attorney." Roy raised one eyebrow. Was your attorney also your printer? The best part, her only path forward required admitting to parking her car illegally. If she pressed charges for vehicle imprisonment, she'd have to confirm that she left a $70,000 SUV inside a man's private workshop without permission. Roy leaned on the hood of his cruiser and laid it out like a country lawyer with a patient streak. Mom, the vehicle is on his property. The building's sealed. You gave no formal request or contract. As far as the law is concerned, looks like you donated it. The silence that followed was the sound of Sheila's ego hitting a legal wall at 60 miles per hour. Her last-ditch effort was a dramatic monologue about neighborhood safety, community standards, and something she called emergency aesthetic jurisdiction. Roy squinted like he was watching a soap opera dubbed by raccoons. Ma'am, he said slowly, I'm not even sure what that means, but I'm real sure it's not a crime to build a sculpture around a car someone left on their property. She lost it.
This is a violation of my dignity.
Roy smiled, tipped his hat, and replied, That's not illegal, Mom. Just unfortunate. For my mountain campsite, I nearly choked on a s'more when I heard the recording. Sheila had marched into that encounter expecting handcuffs on me. Instead, she got a legal haiku and a warning not to trespass again, unless she wanted to explain her fake documents in court. My cameras caught her stomping away like a rejected parade float, her clipboard flapping under one arm like a broken wing. Power without truth is just cosplay. She thought she could bend the law with lamination and arrogance. But we were just getting started. Wait till you see what happens when her HOA pals come looking for their piece of the sculpture. If fame were food, Sheila preferred it microwaved, glossy, and served on realtor letterhead. But when she became an internet snack, it wasn't on a plate, it was on a meme. My first video from Inspiration Camp opened with a shot of me roasting marshmallows beside a lake, captioned, BMW trapped in my workshop. Guess I'll turn it into a spice rack. It was meant for the locals. But the algorithm smelled blood. Within 48 hours the world knew who Sheila Monroe was, and they were not fans. By day 3, BMW Karen was trending nationally. Someone auto-tuned her voicemail into a song called No Tochi, That's My Property, that hit 2 million views by breakfast. Another clip of her screaming, "This is community vandalism with a welder," got remixed into a dubstep beat so aggressive it could exfoliate your spine. Her pristine LinkedIn page turned into a digital bonfire. Real estate clients bailed faster than rats off a burning yak. The woman who once handed out business cards like breath mints now couldn't sell a birdhouse without public backlash. And it wasn't just her reputation. Her actual self was unraveling like a bargain store sweater under pressure. Reports from town said her daily schedule now included arguing with my steel-plated fortress as if it were a courtroom and she was both the judge and the bailiff. Her manicure cracked. Her friends stopped answering texts. Her hoa buddies ghosted harder than a teenager dodging chores. One neighbor swore she saw Sheila yelling,
I will have my redemption!
At a garden hose. Nobody could confirm if the hose responded. The voicemail started around week 2. Clay, let's be reasonable. I'll cover the tow. Just let me inside. Then came the guilt trips. This is cruel and excessive. You're hurting my career. Then the begging. Please, please. I just want my car back. I saved every message. Some for legal backup, most for future comedy nights. But I didn't answer. Not because I was cruel. Because the lesson was still baking and it needed time to rise. Then came the fake apology video. Her eyes red-rimmed, mascara halfway to her elbows. Parked in a beige rental like it could shield her from consequences. I made a mistake, she whimpered. But does this justify destroying a woman's life? The comments were brutal. You parked in his shop, Karen. You started it. Girl, it's not a life destroyed. It's a life upcycled. One guy even offered to buy the welded sculpture and donate it to a museum. I like that guy. If you can't control your image, don't park it in someone else's shop. She thought a viral meltdown would buy her sympathy. But I had a blowtorch, a deadline, and 200 feet of community tubing to install next. Stick around. Because what I did with her taillights is still the town's favorite conversation starter. Sheila brought a welding crew to a poetic standoff like it was a heist movie. But she forgot one thing: I write the plot, and I already cast her as the punchline. Around 3 a.m., my security app pinged me with a motion alert. There she was in full suburban ninja mode, flanked by 2 guys with torches, all wearing precision welding services, shirts like irony wasn't flammable. Their plan: Cut through half-inch steel, under full surveillance, in a county that treats property rights like gospel. The moment the torch hissed to life, my setup did exactly what it was designed to do, woke the dead and startled the living. Sirens, strobes, and a pre-recorded message blaring, warning me. You are attempting to violate an art installation protected by community consensus. The welders froze like kids caught drawing mustaches on a school portrait. Sheila, bless her entitled soul, actually yelled, me. This is a lawful reclamation of all assets! One of the welders muttered, Mom, this isn't what you said it was, dropped his torch, and ghosted harder than her LinkedIn endorsements. Enter Sheriff Roy, again, who arrived in record time with the patience of a man who just poured his coffee and now had to deal with a bonfire made of dumb. He scanned the scene like a disappointed dad at a broken lamp. You again, he sighed to Sheila before addressing the welders. Boys, did she tell you this was her property? They all pointed at her like synchronized swimmers. Roy let out a whistle so dry it could sand furniture. Mom, you just broke into a sealed building and tried to extract private property you abandoned. That's not a retrieval. That's attempted robbery, with commentary, caught red-handed, on camera. With 3 different GoPro angles and a high-def drone circling like a poetic hawk, Sheila had no out. The footage wasn't just evidence, it was art. And when Roy told her, try this again, and you'll be making license plates instead of cutting through them, she finally stopped yelling. Her ego deflated like a popped birthday balloon under fluorescent lights. Even the backup torch guy left mid-job, shaking his head like he'd just accidentally joined a reality show no one wanted to watch. And I sat lakeside with a s'more in hand, watching it all unfold on a tablet, whispering, this one's going in the documentary. Sheila wanted control. She got consequences. She wanted silence. She got surround sound. She wanted her car back. She got a headline, a warning from law enforcement, and a viral blooper reel so legendary it made the local news under, strange but legal. You can't cut through karma. Not with steel, not with privilege. She lit the match hoping to reclaim her status. But I was already halfway through transforming her bumper into a bench. Come back next time, because the reveal, let's just say, her trunk's about to open more minds than she ever did. I didn't expect 200 people to show up to watch a car come out of a barn like it was Cinderella at the ball. But this is Texas, where barbecue and payback both qualify as community events. The parking lot filled faster than a Black Friday tool sale, local news vans, a bluegrass band, and even a food truck called Cluck You Chicken rolled in like we were opening a new courthouse. And front row, Sheila wearing sunglasses bigger than her remorse, arms crossed like she was trying to fold the memory of the last 6 weeks into her armpit. When I hit the button, the steel walls didn't just open, they bloomed. Each panel folded outward like mechanical petals, revealing what used to be her pristine BMW and was now, somehow, the soul of Pine Creek, a little library where the windshield once was. A chess table in place of the hood, raised herb gardens on the roof growing basil and rosemary like suburban hope, the trunk, a tool lending station. And the whole thing powered by solar panels and a reputation shift. This wasn't a car anymore. It was the comeback tour for community spirit. There was a hush you could taste, the kind that only hits when something dumb becomes something divine. People whispered, then clapped, then outright cheered. A retired teacher brought over her grandkids to grab books. A teenager challenged the mayor to a chess match. And a neighbor I hadn't talked to in 5 years shook my hand and said, you turned HOA hell into a hallmark moment. All eyes were on the sculpture. All except one pair. Sheila stood there like a statue with feelings, silent, stunned, shaking slightly. When she finally took a breath, it came out broken and soft. It's beautiful. And she didn't say it with her usual flair for fake compliments. This was real, like a squirrel realizing the traffic light wasn't for it. A single tear slid under her designer sunglasses, and I swear, if she'd handed me a garden trowel and a library card right then, I'd have accepted the gesture without a smirk. But poetic justice wasn't done. A news anchor leaned over to her and asked, how does it feel knowing your car just became more helpful than you ever were? Sheila didn't scream. She didn't stump. She just sat down on the chess bench she used to drive and cried quietly while a 6-year-old handed her a book titled, How to Be a Nice Neighbor. Coincidence? Maybe. But if karma ever had a librarian, she shelved that moment in the biography's personal growth section. Revenge doesn't have to scream. Sometimes it reads bedtime stories. She lost the car, the power, and the narrative. But what she gained next, that's where the punchline turns into a plot twist. Stick around, because even a Karen can compost into something useful. If you told me 6 months ago that Sheila would one day hand out sunflowers and paint kids' faces at a community cookout, I'd have laughed so hard I'd weld my eyebrows off. Me. This woman once fined a neighbor for painting their porch too cheerful. Now she's the unofficial ambassador of tomato canning and quiet apologies. And yes, she still parks by the library, just not in it. Me. Her new ride, a dented beige Corolla with a coexist sticker where the BMW badge used to shine like false royalty. She started small like every good redemption story. First, it was sweeping leaves around the old chess table. Then came the herb beds. She'd talk to the thyme like it was therapy. At some point, someone gave her a volunteer badge and she never took it off. Me. It's nice to feel useful instead of feared, she told the mayor, who nearly dropped his lemonade. Sheila wasn't just attending community events, she was hosting them. Me. Making lemonade out of the bitter lemon factory she used to operate. I watched the whole transformation like a blacksmith watching rust turn into patina. She didn't try to erase what she did. Me, she just slowly buried it under good deeds, one awkward smile at a time. Folks still side-eyed her now and then, but it's hard to stay mad at someone who brings muffins and free tool rentals. Her new voice. Softer. Her new motto? Don't dictate, decorate. And if that's not poetic karma, I don't know what is. As for me, the art commissions started rolling in faster than Sheila used to issue citations. Me. County fairs, state showcases, even a museum request for a modern piece on rural resistance. I just called it welded nonsense with a moral arc. One day, while checking the bolts on the chess table, I installed a final plaque, brushed aluminum, elegantly torched, right where the BMW emblem used to be. This space proudly powered by misguided entitlement, recycled for good. Sheila read it. She didn't flinch, just nodded, tapped it twice, and said, "Fair enough." Then she walked off to water the marigolds next to the hood. The best transformations aren't mechanical, they're moral. You can repaint a car, but repainting a heart, that takes time, neighbors, and a healthy dose of humility. In the end, what started as a turf war over a workshop turned into something bigger than revenge. It became a blueprint for transformation. I didn't just weld steel, I welded a community back together. Me. One sarcastic plaque and chess match at a time, and as strange as it still feels to say it, Sheila, of all people, reminded us that change is possible, even for the most stubborn of us. My shop didn't just become art. It became a reminder that the strongest boundaries aren't fences, they're principles. Here's what I hope you take away from this story. You don't have to scream to be heard. You don't need to destroy to make a point. Sometimes, the boldest stand you can take is to turn conflict into comedy, entitlement into empathy, and property disputes into public purpose. If this story made you laugh, think, or want to install a chessboard in a car hood, do me a favor, hit that like button. Drop a comment below with your favorite moment or your own HOA horror story. And make sure to subscribe so you never miss the next tale of poetic justice served piping hot. Because here, we don't just tell stories, we weld legacies.